Manny Tiamzon from Valhallan Esports Training. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, listening to S.M.E stories.
You are now listening to the next Great Small Business Podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories Podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for the show. We got a great episode today with Manny Tiamzon. Now, Manny Tiamzon is the franchise owner of Valhallan Esports Training. So a little bit about Valhallan. At Valhallan, they believe in video games are more than just entertainment, that they're a powerful tool for personal growth and community building. They're on a mission to guide young players to realize their full potential in both esports and in life. Now, it was founded in Houston, Texas, and they've expanded to across North America, and Manny owns the Whitby location close to Ajax, Ontario. So it's just a little bit more about Valhallan. It's become quickly the world's largest and fastest growing esports franchise with arenas across all the country. Valhallan is bringing education, life skills, and inclusive competition to youth gamers everywhere. So Manny is a franchise owner, and he plays a key role in providing a positive, structured environment where young players thrive. I also mentioned this as well, is that my son currently trains at Valhallan Esports Training, and a little bit about Manny himself personally. He's actually retired from Enbridge Gas, where he worked there for many, many years, and basically he got bored of being retired. So he decided to say, okay, you know what, I'm bored. What should I do? He decides to buy an esports training franchise. So we're going to hear a lot more about that. So sit back and absorb. All right, guys, we have Manny Tiamzon from Valhallan Esports Training, Whitby. Manny, how are you?
I'm not too bad, Ken. So how about you?
I am doing well. I think we chatted briefly about my sore foot, but the weather here in is going to be really nice over this coming weekend. So
Yeah.
for those who don't know, like Manny, Valhallan Esports Whitby is actually east of Toronto and more east of Ajax, where I'm usually from. So we're basically still part of the Durham region area. So that's where Manny is. And in full disclosure to my listeners out there, that my son currently is a member of Valhallan Esports Training in Whitby. It was actually talking to Manny that got my son into it, and now
Right.
my son is training to potentially be a pro gamer. So all thanks to Manny and his coaches that are there. So so we got a very interesting episode today, Manny, right? Because you're a franchise owner of Valhallan Esports Training. So all right, Manny, what is your story?
Yes. I've been working in IT for quite a long time, maybe about 25, 30 years. So I don't want to mention how long. So you're going to know how old I am. So I decided to take early retirement um, before the pandemic, actually. I told my boss at that time I want to retire, and that was before the pandemic. And my actual retirement date happened during the pandemic itself. So
Okay.
I was never able to say formally goodbye to my colleagues at work. But anyway, we just had a teleconference, some kind of a goodbye party for me during that time.
Was it virtual?
Well, it's all virtual on the
So
phone.
you had a virtual retirement party from your
Virtual
company.
retirement party.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
that was crazy.
Yes, that was.
But anyways, so I did take my early retirement. I enjoyed the first few months of my retirement. Sleeping in late, um, waking up at 12 noon, and then relax myself. About half a month. I'm sorry, half a year into my retirement, I really felt bored. I felt that I needed to do something, and I was trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do for the rest of my life. I'm still not that old, and I felt at that time I was not going to die yet. So I needed to do something, and I started to explore some opportunities that I could possibly do. So started exploring different kinds of things until I saw an ad for a franchise opportunity for esports training. And I'm not really a gamer myself, but I have been hearing a lot about the esports industry over the last several years. And I'm not a gamer. It's my son who was a gamer. So I've seen him playing games with his friends, and I mean reading all about these stories. about these gamers who making big bucks. I thought this might be a good opportunity for me to jump in as an entrepreneur in the esports training side of the industry. So I contacted the franchisor, um, and then they gave some presentations. I thought it was a good idea, and the rest is history,
Yeah, I
as
mean,
they say.
well, that's a really cool story, right? There, Manny, because like I too played video games when I was younger,
Mhm.
right? Like I think, and I played the regular Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, even the Xbox, even mainly computer games too. So
Yep, that's
I
right.
think what most people do, this is before we found out about esports, was like, okay, you play it and you kind of either grow out of it or you just
Hmm.
stop playing and then maybe you come back to it many years when there's like that, that when it becomes nostalgic again, right?
Right, that's
And
right.
I also too did hear about esports, but the funny thing is when I tell people about esports, they're thinking, What is that? There's like motorcycles, there's like a high
Mhm.
electric motorcycle racing." I'm like,
Yeah,
no, esports is video games. And then you get two kinds of people. The one side of it, they're like, huh? Video games? The other
yeah,
side are like, oh yeah, I know all about it.
yeah.
It's like there's nothing in between. It's either you know about it or you don't know about it.
Right, that's
And
correct.
and what Manny was suggesting too is that it's a pretty big industry, which I did not know as well. I didn't know you could do, or maybe I knew about it, but I didn't realize how big it was because I'd see
It
stuff on
is.
like YouTube. I'd see all these things, and I saw people playing video games. I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's fine, good for them. And I used to have a client when I used to be a personal trainer who did play professional video games,
Right.
and it was very interesting to hear that. So
Mhm.
I'll keep jumping back and forth there, Manny. So
Yeah, no
you said
problem.
you saw an ad there for esports. Did you look at any other esports franchise that were offering, or was Valhallan there was just something about Valhallan that you liked?
Well, I checked some of the other. I mean, as I said, I was exploring different opportunities, and Valhallan was the only one I saw that had this kind of esports training uh, concept. I mean, they're gamers all over, but there's nothing out there that tells that trains basically kids to become esports specialists, something like that. Right now they're the only ones doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, and to my listeners, I can really attest to this because he showed me the curriculum. And most people would be like, curriculum for video games? They're
Yeah.
just playing. It's like,
Mhm.
no, there's actually more to it than just that. So,
That's right.
and if you don't mind me peeking behind the curtains there, Manny, if you're
Mhm.
okay with me telling some of these stories, is that I actually sat in on a few of my son's training sessions, and a lot of it, there is talk about they have coaches that are there.
Mhm.
It's not like they're just going to go sit in front of a screen and all they're going to do is play video games. They actually do talk about what they're going to be focused on.
That's
There's
right.
topics there, there's strategies that they're going to be looking at,
Mhm.
and for certain
Mhm.
games now. For those of you who are still unfamiliar with esports in terms of video games, we're talking like at least the games that I'm noticing, unless there's another type.
Mhm.
I think there's two kinds of esports. There's the racing ones, which if you see some of those ads on YouTube or social media where you could spend all this money on getting these really high end
Mhm.
virtual racing ones, and then
Mhm.
there's ones that are more like team based shooter up, right?
Yes.
And Manny, you can list off some of the games there that are very popular that you guys have.
Right. I mean, you mentioned that all the games we offer a curriculum on are team games, and that was done on a purpose. So we offer only games like Fortnite, Overwatch 2, Apex Legends, Valorant, and Rocket League. And also Minecraft, we're developing something for Minecraft as well. So basically, these games were chosen because we wanted to. These are games that the Valhallan developed a curriculum on. As you mentioned, we have the curriculum is quite structured. So there's a part for healthy habits. So we teach the kids health habits in relation to their gaming opportunities, and then we teach them the finer points of the game. And then there's also the competitive part where they participate in a league as a team. And then the advantage of this is that for those kids who are not quite athletic, say, I mean, basketball, hockey, soccer may be popular traditional sports, but not all kids can participate in those kinds of team games. So with esports, kids who are not in those kinds of traditional sports can experience the benefit of being in a team game, like being in a basketball team. They learn teamwork, collaboration, conflict resolution. So all kinds of benefits that kids can gain from playing the traditional sports.
Yeah, I mean that's the really cool thing about it too, right? Because like I said, I sat in on these sessions, and you have
Mhm.
all the players in the same room sitting next to each other, but
Right,
hearing the coach, talk about different strategies, different tactics that they're going to use. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, there, Manny, is that usually because this one happens on Monday, and I think depends on the game. But
right.
for my son, he's doing the Fortnite training
Mhm,
right now. Is
mhm.
that I think around like 7 in the evening or something like that, there's usually like a scrimmage against some other
Right,
Valhallan locations. And
right,
for listeners, really look up Valhallan Esports Training. You'll be surprised how many locations. So you're
right.
potentially playing against hundreds of players from all over the US and Canada. And I don't know if there's any other ones in Europe or anything else, but you're all competing all
Yes.
together. Right.
Yeah,
And the funny
that's
thing
correct.
about this, Manny, is that funny thing about this, listeners, actually, is that I took my son Gabe there for the March break, right? So for those not
Mhm.
familiar, North America, we have March breaks. For elementary and high school kids, it's called the March break. It usually happens in March. For university and colleges, they might call it spring break or reading
Right.
week or something like
Mhm,
that. That's so for those of you who are not familiar with that. So, anyways, I brought him there just to think, okay, let him play. And I spoke to one of Manny's coaches, and they really talked really highly about my son. And they said, well, he's really, really good. I'm like,
mhm,
my son? He's
mhm,
good. He said, yeah, he's really good. Like he's
mhm,
actually very talented. I was like, huh, I never really would have thought about that because I saw my son play video games.
mhm.
Usually it's Roblox, but okay, sure. So to actually hear the coach provide specific skills that my son actually had that would be an asset to the team is just something from my parents. You're like, whoa, okay, maybe my
Right.
kid's not just playing. But the fact that, just to touch upon Manny's point, is that these kids are working together. And it's true, you have to learn how to,
Mhm.
because you're working as a team. This is not a solo game where you just try to get to the end of the level.
Right.
Usually it's the last team standing. So you
Mhm,
have to have that communication. So a lot of the skills that Manny is talking about does translate outside of video games. If you're talking like whether you're playing a regular outdoor sport,
mhm.
you need to communicate with your teammates. You need to
Right.
figure out conflicts, but also, hello, people, when you actually start work and you
Mhm.
have to work with other people, you're
Yeah.
going to have to deal with all that sort of stuff. So they offer a lot of really cool things that are there. So,
Mhm, mhm.
so, so many, so how big, so now we're going to jump back to Valhalla here. So how big is your current team right now, and where do you see yourself growing?
Okay. Well, we started operations only last January. So at this stage, we're still pretty much in a build stage. So far, for the last 3 months, we have had 23 signups already for our classes. Well, I mean, mm, and I'm hoping these things will pick up pretty soon. My feeling is the economy is still weak at this point, and I think many parents are still holding back on uh, discretionary spending. This is basically just discretionary spending. Hoping that by the summer, when hopefully things are better, interest rates go down, parents will feel a little bit more confident with their discretionary spending. So we're going to be having summer camps. We're going to be having, we're going to organize tournaments, and we'll put more effort on our marketing so that the local market will know more about us. So that's really the short term goal for us right now, is to have more sign-ups for
Mhm.
our classes. Long term goal is basically set up more arenas,
Yeah.
so kids can enjoy the benefits of the esports that can offer.
Yeah. I mean, what was really cool, Manny, I think the last session I watched is that they had some almost like hand-eye vision training that the coaches were
Yes,
doing with the actual players.
right. That's right.
Right? It was really cool to see, it wasn't just they go play straight the game. They were actually having to train their eyes so they can see things. Because obviously,
Right.
when you're talking about a
Mhm.
competition like esports, your
Mhm.
reaction time is very, very important. That split
Yes.
second can
Mhm.
cost your team a victory or you getting eliminated,
Mhm. That's right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is really cool, right?
Mhm.
And I think the fact too that you know, I think I saw one player was having a hard time last week, and I'm not going to mention any names, obviously, but I think he felt like, what was going on? Could he have done something better? And he looked visibly upset,
Mhm.
right? And I saw one of your coaches go in there and really, really work with him to really make him feel a lot better. To say, hey, this stuff
Yeah.
happens,
Yeah.
and here's what you can try to do next time. So it wasn't that, oh, everything's going to be okay, which is true, but I'll say, well, here's how what you did.
Yeah.
This is what kind of led to it.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
what we can do next time to make sure this doesn't happen. So, it shows that a lot of the kids are becoming really close friends. Like I think we joked about
Yes.
before, like, so Manny, how
Mhm.
quiet when the March break came when we first arrived were all the kids,
Well, they man, you could hear them really.
especially at the
Just
end.
like you're playing, you're cheering. They were, they were egging one another to do this.
Yeah,
Were helping one another, and that helps. And one of the things we are actually trying to build here is the matter of a community. So we want to build a community. So you mentioned about the kid who was struggling. So the coach who helped him. This is one way of building the community. Build him with the other kids as well in that group. So it was. I mean, I hope many of the listeners can come to an actual game and see how the kids are enjoying themselves in when they're playing with one another. It's just
yeah,
like any traditional game.
absolutely. And Manny, what is Valhallan's policy on bullying when kids start acting like that?
Good question. So one of the objectives of Valhallan is to provide a safe environment for the kids. So what we do is we monitor the gaming platform that the kids use, and if we observe any toxic behavior or some language that is not appropriate, we deal with them right away. So
Yeah,
we
nip
want to
it in the
provide
bud.
a safe. Yeah, we just tell them right there, no, that's not good language.
Yep, and
That's bad behavior.
exactly, because I think that's especially with the area of cyberbullying that a lot of parents are probably worried about nowadays. You
Agree.
know, to hear that you guys do not tolerate that,
Hmm.
and and for some kids, some of them probably don't mean to have it come out the way it is. Maybe it's just the
Right.
tone,
Hmm.
but still, it's good to let them know. Okay, yeah, I shouldn't have said that, right? Because there's certain people that you can make certain jokes with, and then there's certain
Right.
people you don't.
Yeah,
When you
that's true.
don't, so you shouldn't be doing it generally, but that's why I'm glad that's what I'm really happy about. There's also that
Hmm.
wellness piece that you guys did. I think they did some stretching and some loosening up their bodies, which is
Yeah.
also really good because for people who don't know about the esports industry is that the higher level teams,
Hmm.
I was surprised to see this because I didn't know this much about the industry myself before I got
Right.
involved. Is that some of these high level teams, the ones that really compete for like $1 million pots,
Hmm.
and that's what some of these tournaments are. They're worth millions. They have corporate sponsors there. They have a management team. They have a personal trainer, and they have like a dietitian, and
Right.
and I wouldn't be surprised if they have a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
right? Just to really help to give that, so the players have, it's almost like professional training for
Yeah.
an athlete, right, Manny?
Yeah. He's playing in the NBA
Is that like
or
playing
the
NBA? Yes. Well,
NFL or the NHL or the MLB.
yeah. And I don't know, Manny. I don't know if that's what the goal is for Valhalla in the long term, is to actually have a competitive team like that that competes for those $1 million pots and stuff like that.
Well, for sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure sometime in the future, one of these kids are gonna come out as one of these top players. I'm pretty sure that's probably gonna come out.
Yeah, hopefully my son, right? Because
Yes, for sure.
not to say I'm endorsing him to play, because the funny thing is, man, I don't know if I told you this. We were trying to get Gabe off of screen time.
Okay.
So what kind of where did I come from where I'm like, it'd be a great March break idea to get him away from screens?
Hmm.
Put him in an esports training thing. And that for some reason that happened.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really interesting because I'll make this last story here too, Manny, is that to my listeners, I have like one of my cousins, she actually plays professional. She's a professional gamer as well.
Hmm.
And she was doing it part-time while she was in high school. Right. And she actually did really well. And I'll put her name in the show notes so people can look her up. is that she made last year $50,000 US
Yeah.
being a professional gamer part time.
Right.
She completed her school. Now she does that full time. Now, for some listeners, 50K may not sound a lot, like a lot of
Yeah.
money,
That's
but you think
for a
about
kid.
for an 18-year-old, 50K, that's a lot of money,
It's a lot of
right?
money.
Now, what Manny and I are suggesting is that just because your kids like video games doesn't mean they're going to be making that kind of money. No,
Yeah.
it
No.
is. It
No.
requires a lot of work,
It is a lot. Yeah.
right? And what I really like too about your place, Manny, as well, is that your coaches make it very, very clear is that after training, because we train Monday evenings, they don't want them playing any video games that night. They don't want them playing video games if they have schoolwork, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
I think your coach Simone that was telling me is that he expects 30 minutes to maybe an hour at the most of training per day, but
Right.
everything else that require, like chores, family time, schoolwork, those take precedence over this,
That's right.
which is very, very important, which is really what I'm glad to hear. And I hope listeners
Mhm.
can really understand that. So parents who are worried, believe me, Manny's running a top shop there, right? They don't put up with any bullying, and they're
Mhm.
focused on education outside of video games. And sorry,
Right.
outside of esports is very paramount. So
Mhm.
let's talk about. So how many coaches do you have right now on staff?
Well, right now I have three coaches working with the kids. They have their own specialties in the games. Well, I mean, the games that I mentioned, that's pretty much they specialize in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you said for some of these coaches, they're high ranked players, so
Correct. Yeah.
they're not just a person that watched a YouTube video how to play a particular game and then tries to teach the kids. Like we're talking, these coaches actually do compete,
Right.
at a very high level that they can. And I can see my son Gabe listening to your coaches very well.
Hmm.
Right now, I have to
Yes.
try to get my son to understand. Okay, if you're struggling with something, you have to tell your coach ahead of
Yes.
time so that he can tell you. So I think I'll use this one example. I think my son was having an issue playing a particular game of Fortnite where
Hmm.
I guess out of all the guns that you can use in Fortnite, he always struggles with the sniper rifle.
Hmm.
And I told him, okay, make sure you tell Coach Simone that you're having trouble with that. He waits till the end of the training session, and I had to kind of egg him to tell coach. I said, "Do you have something to tell coach?" And then, my Gabe mentioned it, and Coach Mo was awesome. He's smiling. He says, "Okay, no problem, Gabe. So for the rest of this week, you're training. You're only allowed to use the sniper rifle to develop your strength in that, so you're not reliant on one type of weapon." So that's what I think is really cool about it. So
That's right. Yeah.
Manny, you have three coaches right now, and I know that your family probably helps you out as well doing it because I think I saw your wife get the birthday party stuff
Yeah.
ready
Birthday
and
parties. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
right. So you're really tapping into the birthday party market. Do you see that growing?
Well, our main focus actually is on those classes. We just do the birthday parties. I mean, basically, to introduce the kids to the to our program. And then we also have other events that basically, help basically leads us to these classes that we are conducting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I saw them getting ready for the birthday party, and it
Yeah.
was crazy. Like I heard it was a really fun party and stuff right
Mhm.
now. So Manny, what is the current capacity? Like, how many kids can you actually have? Because you're how big of an operation? So how many kids can come in for training or playing at one time?
Yeah, well, at any given time, we can have about 20 kids playing games there. We actually had one birthday party where we were at capacity, and
Oh.
at that time we were a little bit worried. Maybe the internet might suffer, but nothing of that sort happened. So it looks like, and that was a good thing. We were able to test our internet to full capacity.
Nice, yeah, and which is really good. I mean, not that you want to hit that level anyways, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you don't
Yeah.
want to find out the hard way, which is good. So 20 is a good start, and I guess the goal too, like once you grow it, is hopefully expanding your space because it's a pretty nice space, right? It's
Yes.
you'll never run out of like at this point. It was really good to see how much space you guys have and how much other areas like your washrooms are very clean
Mhm.
and everything like that. So it was really cool to see that
Thank you.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you're talking about marketing campaigns that you guys are doing. So you use social media. So I know this is not a social media podcast. What social media platforms do you guys focus on?
Well, right now we are on Facebook. We have Instagram. We are developing reels for TikTok. Um, Now we're on Google as well.
Yeah.
So far, those are what the we're marketing ourselves through these social media platforms.
So where do you get your material from? So for listeners, I know for the last few episodes we've talked about like franchising and
Mhm.
franchisor franchisee. So how much involvement does corporate have in letting you run your operation? Is it very much to the point that do you have any creativity, or are you very, I wouldn't say restricted, but
Mhm.
you work with a manual and you don't deviate from that? Which one is
Okay.
it?
Well, when it comes to the curriculum, we do follow whatever the franchisor had given us, and it is good for us as well. I mean, we don't have to, think about how we're going to be developing these classes. So it's basically a turnkey solution. So with regards to the marketing, they provided us with some framework on how to market ourselves, but we're pretty much, free to advertise on our own, but of course, within the framework of the franchise. So, for example, when it comes to branding, the colors, I mean, what text we should be putting out there, we have some framework provided by our franchisor.
Okay, so there's a little bit of creativity as well, right? Because I
Yes,
mean, for some people, I'm not saying that, not to say that what you're given from as a franchisee is restricted to the point that you're not allowed to do anything. And we're not endorsing break what the agreement is between the
right.
franchisee and the
Mhm,
franchisor, right?
mhm,
Like
mhm.
you cannot buy a McDonald's franchise and then try to introduce the Whopper
Agree.
into it, right? But we were just
Yeah,
talking like little things that you said, like especially for the local uh,
right.
clientele,
Mhm.
right? Because you're based in Durham, right? So you're not going to be trying to post ads all the way in Mississauga, which is all
Right.
the way in the west,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so you might be wanting to maybe partner up with some local shops in Durham or something like that. That is very specific. So that's what I mean.
Right.
Like you're able to have a little bit of creativity with that, especially with
Yes.
TikTok, which I still have no clue how to do. My daughter does TikTok. I can't figure that part out altogether.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so last question before we hit from the tips of the pro segment here, Manny, is what has been your biggest failure, but also biggest success so far?
Well, let's start with the success. I mean, the fact that we have been able to reach out to a number of parents, present to them, and have their kids enrolled for our classes. I think that is a big success for us. And I really appreciate the parents signing up. That means that they trust what the program can do for their kids, and they trust what we can do for them. So I think that's a big success. Okay. When it comes to you mentioned about failure, I wouldn't call it a failure yet at this point, but maybe maybe some a little bit of the hardships were it's still the business environment is still pretty much struggling at this point. I mean, so the economy, this high interest, high inflation rate environment we're experiencing right now. And I wish, I mean, I am not at the point yet where I want to be.
Mhm.
That's basically where I am right now.
Yeah, so you're not. So it's
And
not really a failure. It's just that you're still going through the growth phase
the growth phase, yes,
of the
especially the
operation,
growth
right? So
phase, the operation.
a lot of red tapes or roadblocks can somewhat slow down what you could generally do, right?
Right. Well, starting a business is hard enough.
Mm.
Um, and then being in a difficult business environment makes it a little bit harder, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
when I'm hoping there's a light at the end of the tunnel come this summer when it comes to the, the interest rate is quite a significant expense for us at this point. And hoping that things will ease up a little bit once the summer comes along, when hopefully the interest rates are reduced.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're not alone there, Manny. I mean,
Agree.
we just renewed our mortgage, unfortunately.
I
So
see. Yeah.
it's something that you're going to pay more, right? And
Mhm.
hopefully it'll ease up in the future. So,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, no, that's really good. I was going to talk about basic expenses, and obviously you said the
Mhm.
interest rate. So the
Mhm.
finances are also a challenge right now. So right, Manny, where can people find you?
Well, you can go to our website, valhallan.com. We're also on Facebook. You can search for Valhallan Whitby. We're on Instagram. We're also on TikTok. Just search for Valhallan Whitby.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Manny. It was awesome for you to be on the show.
Thanks a lot again for having me.
Hey, do you need an error free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.